there's a lot of discussion and has been for a long time about, what makes a great leader. And a lot of people default to the idea that, you're born to be a great leader, that you've got these talents and these skills and abilities that just come naturally. You were born with it, they're God-given talents, etc. And I don't disagree that there are some people that are deeper and richer in those skills. But in no way does that mean that you have to be born with those talents and skills in order to be a highly effective leader. Uh, and so I think it takes regimen. I know it takes regimen, and it takes discipline and a structure. And so my challenge for you today is think about your structure, your regimen, in 3 areas in particular, okay? Number 1 is communication. Simply, how do you communicate? How do you communicate primarily to your team, your direct reports, but also don't forget about communicating up and communicating sideways, all right? How do you communicate to your boss? Maybe, depending on the situation, your boss's boss. How do you communicate to your peers and so forth? But at least, the very least, you have to have a structure and a discipline for communicating to your direct reports. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is recognition. How will you recognize your people? Now, here's where, as we've talked in other videos, you really need to personalize that, right? Not everybody values the same type of recognition. So you've really got to get to know your people and what's gonna make them smile the most, what's gonna motivate them to continue doing what you're recognizing and so forth. But you can't just you can't just recognize one way across the board, and you can't just leave it to chance. You have to be consciously thinking about, how am I going to recognize each of my people? How am I going to recognize them collectively? And then, when are you going to do that? What's the setting going to be for doing that? And maybe even a little bit about what verbiage am I going to use? What words am I going to use that I feel comfortable saying and are going to really resonate with my people? So recognition is number 2. Number 3 is something that when you hear this, you might think that that's for older leaders, but it's not. It's for everybody. So even the youngest of you that are watching this, if you're in a leadership position, whether it's in your title or not, sharing knowledge is a responsibility of yours. And let's bring it back to those people where it is in their title. First of all, there's a practical advantage to this. The more knowledge you share with your people, the better they should perform, and the more you can expect from them in terms of performance. Okay, so there's a practical, almost tangible benefit to doing that. But there's a secondary benefit, and that is something that I think every credit union struggles with. I would imagine yours is as well, to at least some extent, and that is generational turnover. What's the next wave of leadership at this credit union? Well, we can't wait till somebody announces their retirement for them to start sharing their knowledge. We need to start doing it today, and we need to start building up that bench strength, and we need to start identifying, okay, this person is a future leader. This one I thought was a future leader. I'm not so sure. This one, nah, we can't count on them for that, and that's okay. But think about it just purely for a second about the practical reason that I mentioned at first, and that is the more you share with them, the more you can expect them to incorporate that knowledge and therefore become a better performer, maybe even a better producer. Okay? So, again, the thing about all three of these is you can leave it to chance. And maybe you have in the past. But my challenge to you today, if you want to go from being a good leader to a great leader and a great people leader, is be conscious, be disciplined, be structured, be regimented about how am I going to do these three things? How am I going to communicate? How am I going to recognize? And how am I going to share knowledge?